Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be doing the eyeshadow palette tag. I have seen this tag floating around here on YouTube. I did receive a comment from a subscriber asking me to do this video, so thank you, Amanda, for your comment. But this tag has been floating around in the beauty community for the past couple weeks. Samantha March did a video like this. Allie Glines. I never know how to pronounce her last name, and I apologize, but Allie Glines did this video, Emily Noel, and Kelly Gooch. Those are the four main people I saw do this video. I'm sure many others have as well, but those are the videos I watched on this tag, and they were great videos. And I do think this tag is so interesting. If you have not seen their videos, basically we're answering some questions about eyeshadow palettes, like what's your oldest palette, newest palette, most used, most colorful, things like that. It's a very like simple tag, but it's so cool and it's so interesting to see everybody's palette collection, like what they deem to be like their most used or like oldest or best memory. It's just very interesting. This actually did take me a minute to like think about how I was going to answer these questions, because I think some of the questions are up for interpretation a little bit, and also like I own so many palettes and I've decluttered so many palettes in the past couple of months that this was a bit difficult for me to narrow down with some of these, but I like my answers right now. I think I have a pretty good set of palettes here, so yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the question. So the first prompt here is to show your newest palette, and this palette I just got in the mail a few days ago. I have here the Anastasia Norvina Volume 4 palette. I don't want to like blind you guys. This is Anastasia Norvina's fourth big palette like this one here. I do plan on filming a review video with this palette that will be up hopefully within the next like week or so. But yeah, I've only used this palette once so far. I don't want to give anything away because I do want to review it. But yeah, this is my newest palette. It's beautiful. It stole my breath when I saw it online, so I had to pick it up. It's a quite hefty palette, but yeah, this is my newest palette. And I actually haven't been buying eyeshadow palettes too much recently. Like, that's my first newest palette in a very long time. Like, I don't think I've bought a palette besides this one since February-ish, around that time. I think that was the last time I bought like an eyeshadow palette. The next prompt is to show your oldest palette. Now, okay, I know this is a palette tag, but I do have two different things here that I want to show. One's a palette, and then I also want to bust out my Makeup Geek single eyeshadows and just, you know, give these an honorable mention, because if we're getting technical here, these are the oldest eyeshadows in my collection. I mean, Makeup Geek has been around since like 2014, 2015. Like, I've had these shadows for that long. It's kind of gross when you think about it, actually, but I've decluttered a lot of my older palettes, and my Makeup Geek shadows always stay in my collection. I just have like this weird attachment to them. Makeup Geek shadows remind me when I first fell in love with YouTube, when I first like realized I wanted to do YouTube myself. So I can never part ways with my Makeup Geek shadows. So I wanted to mention them with the oldest question, but I know this is not technically a palette you can buy. So looking through my collection, I believe this is the oldest palette in my collection, the Anastasia Subculture palette. I know, this palette is controversial. This palette stirred up some drama in the beauty community back in 2016, 17. I'm not exactly sure when this palette came out, but I remember going and buying this palette because I heard so many negative reviews about it. And then Nicole Cutler here on YouTube, she gave it a very positive review, and I trust Nicole and her opinions so much. I have bought in so many things because of her and her opinions, so I went out and bought the palette. I will say, not my favoriteest palette ever. Honestly, the colors in here aren't really colors that I gravitate towards. I do more in the fall and winter time, but like in general, I really don't wear these tones. Like, I'm not like a grungy makeup wearer for the most part. So like color story wise, I don't really use it. Also, the formula is a bit tricky, as I'm sure we all know. I can make it work. It takes a lot of time and patience, and I don't really have that most days. But if I really want to sit down and do a makeup look and have the time and just blend until my fingers bleed, then yes, I can use this palette. But yeah, I do think this is the oldest palette in my collection. I have decluttered so much throughout the years, but this I always keep because I do find it to be pretty unique. So yeah, Subculture is the oldest palette in my collection currently. Show your most expensive palette. Now, currently in my collection, my most expensive palette is my Natasha Denona Tropic palette right here. Here's what it looks like on the inside. This palette is a very beautiful palette. Like, I love the color story in here. I like the warm tones. The pops of blue are really fun for summer. I do think overall it's a gorgeous palette. Do I think it's worth the $65 price tag? No, I honestly think this palette should cost like $40 because it is a bit larger in size, so like I understand why it's a bit more expensive in that aspect. But Natasha Denona shadows in general, I don't really understand the price point. They're not horrible eyeshadows, at least I've had some hit or misses with their palettes in the past, but Yeah, I mean, this palette in particular isn't horrible. I just don't think it's worth $65. I keep it because I do like the colors in here, and I did spend $65 on it, so it's hard for me to be like, I'll get rid of you. Plus, it just feels like nice to have a luxury palette. I don't have a ton of like luxury makeup. I buy mainly drugstore makeup, and if I do make the splurge on high-end makeup, it's usually like Anastasia or like Too Faced, Becca. Like, I don't know. I don't typically buy like super expensive makeup. Like, I'm pretty drugstore. I like keeping this just to have some diversity in my collection. And I have bought other Natasha Denona palettes in the past, more expensive ones than this one. I bought the Star palette. I believe that's like $170. Don't do it. Don't buy it. Not worth it in my humble opinion. Now show your most affordable eyeshadow palette. This e.l.f. Bite Size palette right here retails for $3. It doesn't get much more affordable than this. And it's crazy because I actually do really like this palette. Like, it's really cute. It's very small. I mean, like, I do have pretty large hands, but like, look how tiny that palette is. It like fits in my hand. I could just like throw it like a wiffle ball. So you're not getting a ton of product, but for $3, it's still really not that bad of a deal. And the shadows inside are actually pretty decent. I did a review video on this palette back in like January or February. I don't think this is a bad palette at all. And this is like so cute. Like, it's just so cute. And I think it's so perfect for like traveling. It has just like what you need, no games, no extra shit that you don't need. It's cutesy. Show us your everyday palette. ColourPop Bare Necessities. I mean, are we surprised? No, I have it on my eyeballs right now. I love this palette. It's literally so simple. Look how dirty and disgusting it is for one thing, but this palette is so simple. It has all the neutrals you could ever need. I am a neutral eyeshadow wearer. I try to dabble into color for YouTube purposes, but for the most part, I am just a neutral kind of girl. Like, I only wear like neutral eyeshadows. But I like the variety in here. I like that you get cool tones, warm tones, light shades, dark shades. There's some like plummy shades in there. It's a lot of variety. It's a really good palette. You have everything you need, matte, shimmers, white, black. Like, I like that you have pretty much everything you could need in this palette. Like, when I use this palette, I never have to dive into another palette for anything because it's just all right here. It's so convenient. I do love this palette, and I do use it pretty much every day. I go between this and my neutral ColourPop single eyeshadows, like back and forth every day. Show your most colorful palette. Now, this was really hard for me to narrow down because I don't have a ton of colorful eyeshadow palettes. I have decluttered so many colorful eyeshadow palettes because I just don't use them. And I just kind of realized that about myself, that there's no need for me to have 87 colorful eyeshadow palettes when I use the same neutral palette every single day. Like, it just makes no sense. And also, the colorful palettes I mainly kept were my ColourPop 9-pan palettes that have like a color story, like the yellow palette, the green one, the blue one. So it's like, how do I distinguish which one's the most colorful out of all of those? So I picked a palette that had the most different kind of colors, because I do feel like most palettes have a general color story, like pink, purple, sunset colors. So when I really think about it, I think my Lunar Beauty Life's a Drag palette is my most colorful palette because I have neutrals in here, but I also have these like pops of color, and they're very different pops of color. Like, I have a yellow, pink, blue, purple, red. Don't get me wrong, I have other palettes that have more shades than this, more shades with more colors, but those palettes are all generally like the same. Like my So Jade palette from Kathleen Lights and ColourPop, I was gonna use that one, but those are all blues, greens, and purples. This does have like more colors, I think. I don't know. This was a very hard question for me to answer because I'm like, I don't know how you answer this honestly, because I just feel like I have different color stories, different palettes, and like there's not one that's technically more colorful than the next. It just depends how you look at it. I don't know. This one made sense in my mind looking at my collection. So Life's a Drag by Lunar Beauty. And you really can't deny it's a colorful palette. Like, you get color in the palette, so don't come for me. Now show your smallest palette. Once again, the e.l.f. Bite Size eyeshadow palette for $3. It's my smallest palette. I mean, again, you really can't get much smaller than palm sized. So yeah, repeat offender here. Show your biggest palette, the Morphe 39S. I mean, this palette is gigantic. It's like the size of my chest. Oh my god, I could wear this palette as like a bra if I so wanted to. I wouldn't? Maybe. I probably would not wear a palette as a bra, but if I wanted to, I could wear this eyeshadow palette as a bra. Here's what the inside of the 39S looks like. I think this is such a pretty palette. I love the pinks and the purples. This is a very stunning palette, but boy, does it take up a lot of space. You definitely have to have the space in your like vanity or storage area to have this palette. Like, if you have a very minimal space to keep your makeup in, do not buy the Morphe 39 pan eyeshadow palettes because they're so gigantic. I don't even know how to compare it. Like, I mean, here's it in comparison to my Bare Necessities palette. It just like eats it up, you know? I do think the palette like price point is worth it because you're not paying that much money for the palette itself for the size you get. I don't remember exactly how much the palette costs, but Morphe's pretty affordable, and I mean, this is just, it's huge. So yeah, this is my biggest eyeshadow palette. I do love it, but it takes up hella space. Show your palette with the best memory. This was kind of hard for me because again, I've gotten rid of a lot of eyeshadow palettes throughout the years, and when I thought about it, I was like, oh, I could show like the palette I used for high school prom or graduation or anything like that, but I was like, I got rid of those, and honestly, those aren't like my best memories. Like, I liked my prom and I liked my graduation and all that, but those were just like significant life events, but they weren't my favorite memories. Again, this question was pretty hard for me to answer because I had to really think like, what palette has the best memory? Because I didn't know how to associate that question, but when I sat down and thought about it, the Salvaje palette by ColourPop and Becky G, I took this palette with me on my trip to Mexico, and I know this might seem stupid, maybe, I don't know, but my trip to Cancun, like, really just kind of, like, changed me a little bit. That sounds really weird. I know it sounds super stupid. It was just a, like, college spring break trip, and I get that, but, like, I had never traveled, really, before that trip. Like, I had never been on a plane before that trip. I had never really gone on a vacation that was, like, super far away that wasn't to see family, you know? Like, I never went on a trip and had like that much fun for like that long, you know. It was a week-long trip. Just going to Mexico just made me realize how much I like traveling. I always wanted to travel and see the world, but you don't know if you like traveling or not until you do it. Like, you don't know if you can handle a plane ride, you don't know if you can handle being away from home for that long and all those other things that go into traveling. And going on that trip to Mexico just made me realize how much I really do want to travel and see the world, because there's just so much the world has to offer. And I just don't want to be stuck in the Midwest for my entire life and never see things beyond, you know, where I live right now. This palette just has the best memory because it just makes me think of Mexico and being on the beach, going to the clubs there, and just being at the beautiful resort and having fun with my friends and getting tan and just being drunk for a week straight. It was just a great time. It lit a spark in me that wants to travel more and make the time and save the money to travel. So this palette has the best memory. It's really stupid, I know, but to me it's so sentimental, and now I have an attachment to this palette and I don't think I could ever part with it because I'm like, makes me think of Mexico. And if you ever get the opportunity to go to Cancun, Mexico, I would highly recommend it. It's so pretty there, so beautiful. I love the resort I went to. I went to the Riu, R-I-U. It's great. I'd recommend it, and it was pretty affordable for what you get. Like, it was not a bad price point whatsoever. Going off on a tangent there, but like, if you ever get the chance to go to Cancun, definitely do it. I loved it so much. Show a palette worth the hype. This palette, I don't think got enough hype, but it did get quite a bit of hype, and it's totally worth it. The Jackie. The Jackie Aina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I love Jackie Aina. I think she's an icon. I just adore her. And this palette definitely got a lot of hype because it was an influencer, you know, collaboration. Those typically get quite a bit of hype, but I don't think it got enough hype. But I do think it deserves the hype it got, but it should have got more in like my humble opinion. No, this palette's great. It has the neutral shades in here that I love and adore so much, but it does have those pops of color, and the colors in this palette just make sense together. Like, I know it kind of looks a little funky and like maybe the colors wouldn't collide, but all the colors go so well together. Like, even like this green shade with the purple, it does look good together on the eyes. It's so weird, I know. The color story in here is just so beautiful, and I think all the shades are so pretty together, and the quality is amazing. I love the shade Zam right there. That is a beautiful, like, sparkly, glittery shade, but it's not like chunky glitter. It's like a beautiful, sleek, metallic glitter. This palette's worth the hype through and through. I adore it so much. 10 out of 10. Would recommend to all my family and friends. I have before. I did review this palette as well. I gave it an amazing review because I loved it. I've used it a bunch. It's a really pretty fall palette, and I do believe it's on sale right now. It was on sale recently, so it probably still is. I would check it out. If you're interested in it and you were like going back and forth with it, I'd recommend it. It's such a good palette. Like, I love it so much. It's so pretty, and like, it has everyday shades in there, you know, so it's not like you're buying a rainbow eyeshadow palette that you'll never use. I'm like really upselling this palette right now. I know it's annoying, but it's definitely worth the hype. Now show a palette that is not worth the hype. The Anastasia Riviera palette, I feel like any Anastasia palette when it first launches is very like hyped up, and I definitely fell into the hype. I used to buy every single new Anastasia launch. I've stopped doing that because they're launching too much, honestly, nowadays. Like, they used to only do like 1 or 2 palette launches a year, and now they're doing like 1 a month, it feels like. So I've just kind of stopped buying every palette from them because I can't afford to, for one thing, and it's just like, it's too much, honestly. But yeah, this is back when I still was buying every single Anastasia palette, and like, I don't know, I never really used it. I've used it like less than a handful of times maybe, and it's not a bad palette by any means. It's just like not worth the hype in my opinion because I really don't use it. It just doesn't call to me, you know? I don't know. I definitely do regret buying this palette. I don't think I'll get rid of it anytime soon, but it's not a palette I ever touch in my collection. And it's not like the quality of the palette that's bad. I just don't use it. I don't know. It's just not a palette for me. So it was not worth the hype for me in my makeup usage. Show your favorite palette from a favorite brand. Now I was gonna bust out ColourPop or Anastasia palette here because you guys know those are my top 2 brands, but I've mentioned a lot of ColourPop and Anastasia in this video because I do own the most from them and they're like my favorites and yada yada yada. You get the drill. So I want to show you guys a palette from Dose of Colors because Dose of Colors is one of my favorite brands and I don't think they get the hype they deserve, and I just want to show some love to them. So this is my Sassy Siennas palette by Dose of Colors. Really cute palette, very simple, really good for traveling because it's so sleek and it has everything you need right here. They have a lot of different color stories with these palettes. They have like a cool tone one, a brown one, mauve-y one, berry toned one. I like the Sassy Siennas probably the most because it's warm tone and that's just how I do. But yeah, this is a really pretty palette, and one of my favorite brands is Dose of Colors. I think they're amazing. Anna, the owner of Dose of Colors, is a sweetheart. Not that I know her like personally, but like from what I've heard and seen online, she seems like a sweetheart. Me and her just like go way back, you know. Anna seems great, the owner of the company. She seems awesome, and I wanted to support and show love to Dose of Colors because I don't think they get enough recognition in this community. And now show your most used palette. Now, when I was thinking about this, I'm like, oh, like Soft Glam. Because if you watch my Project Pan videos from my last year's Project Pan, I used Soft Glam up like to the bone. Like there was like not much left of Soft Glam after I was done with it. But I did end up throwing it away because there wasn't much left of it and it was old and I just wanted to show love to other palettes at that point. So I was like, damn, that palette would have been great to show for most used because that palette definitely got the most use I've ever used in a palette. I just said the word use so many times. But yeah, that palette was for sure the most used in my collection, like of all time. But currently I have to say my ColourPop Bare Necessities palette is the most used. It's not like beat up by any means, like there's no pans in the palette, but I use it every day, so like that's how I justified that question. But it does make sense that my everyday palette is also my most used palette. Like I feel like those questions are very similar. So yeah, this palette is my most used. Alright guys, and that was me answering the questions from the palette tag. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to hear some of your answers to these questions down below, especially like what was a palette worth the hype and not worth the hype. Let me know because I feel like everybody is just so different when it comes to makeup. I want to know what palettes were worth it for you and not worth it for you. But feel free to answer any question you want to down below. I love you guys so much. If you do YouTube yourself, I would love to see you guys do this video. I love seeing what other people just like use in their collection. It's so interesting to me. I'm so nosy as a person. So yeah, I love you guys so much and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.